This is one of Shakespeare's most famous sonnets. It illustrates the classic English sonnet form, but it's so well remembered because the content is as relevant today as it was the day Shakespeare wrote it. Let's read it first, and then we'll go through it section by section and see what we can make of it. When, in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy contented least. Yet in these thoughts myself almost despising, haply I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. Well, first let's remember that the English sonnet form is composed of 3 quatrains and a couplet. Let's look at the first quatrain. We must remember when reading Shakespeare that the language has evolved some since he wrote. Sometimes words have meanings and suggestions that are a little different then than they are now. The word fortune, for example, in the first line, means fate, destiny, circumstance. It doesn't necessarily refer to a lot of money. So, when in disgrace with fortune refers to those moments when life is going really bad, when you've lost your job, when your significant other has walked out on you, when you've got a bad report from the doctor. That's being in disgrace with fortune. And being in disgrace with men's eyes refers to those times in life when people don't show you respect, when they take advantage of you. At those times, the speaker feels all alone and beweeps his outcast state. Beweep is not a term that we use now, but it refers to really feeling sorry for yourself, having a major pity party. And at these times, he troubles deaf heaven with his bootless cries. Heaven seems deaf because his prayers don't do any good. It's like God doesn't even hear him. And that's why his cries are bootless. Bootless in this context means worthless. At these times, he looks upon himself and curses his fate. So that is the first quatrain. Let's see what the second quatrain has to say. Wishing me like one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy contented least. Well, when things are really bad, nothing in life is going well, the speaker is like the rest of us, and he looks around and sees that the grass is greener elsewhere. He wishes that he were like these other people who have better prospects than he does, people who are more rich in hope. He envies people who have friends, people who have talents. That's what art refers to in the third line of this quatrain, and scope. Scope here means breadth of opportunity. And of course, we can all understand that. When things are going badly for us, it's easy to look around at others for whom things appear to be going better and envy them. We wish that we were in their shoes. That's natural. But now let's look at the third quatrain. Yet in these thoughts myself almost despising, haply I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate. It's good to remember that in Shakespeare's sonnets, the third quatrain typically involves a shift in direction. Often the third quatrain begins with a conjunction like but or yet. This one begins with yet. The poet is in this state of real dejection because life is going so badly, and then something happens. He thinks of this person who loves him, the person being addressed in the poem. The word haply, by the way, is a Shakespearean-era word that means by chance or out of the blue. He thinks about this person out of the blue. Now, a lot has been written about who the person might be. In truth, we don't know. It might be someone the speaker is romantically attached to, but it doesn't have to be. It's someone who genuinely loves him and cares about him. And when he thinks about that person and that person's love for him, his spirits rise. And we have a nice metaphor of that with the lark. His spirits rise like that lark. A lark is a bird of morning. So when the sun pops over the horizon, the larks wake up and soar up into the sky. And that's what his spirits feel like when he thinks about this person. And then in an English sonnet, we have a couplet at the end that climaxes things. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. Your love is so valuable to me that I can't put a price tag on it. When I remember that you love me, all these other misfortunes don't seem so important. When I remember your love, I wouldn't even change places with a king. And I think the truth expressed by this poem makes it powerful for anybody in any culture or time period, because people who love us do bring us a kind of richness and fulfillment that no amount of money can match. We might be talking about parents or grandparents or children or lifelong friends or spouses or mentors. Love can come to us from a lot of people and a lot of directions, but from wherever it comes, it brings us a kind of wealth that trumps everything else.